So I think everything about marketing has changed.
We are all talking about the digital experience, but how important is a unified marketing platform to delivering it? That's what we're going to be discussing today in The Digital Experience in the Real World. I'm joined by Sundeep MV, the Chief Marketing Officer of Techademy. Sundeep is a brand management, marketing intelligence, and communication strategy guru, and he is leading the marketing effort for Techademy, one of the industry's leading learning experience platforms. When I sat down with Sundeep the other day, virtually of course, I wanted to ask him a question. We've heard lots of talk about how everything has changed when it comes to marketing, but I want to know, have they really? And if so, in what way? I mean, so what? And I found his answers fascinating.
So even from an industry perspective, while some things were going on an auto mode, I think there came a time when we had to do everything differently. One fine day, we woke up and realized that the world had changed. The way that I see it is what probably a point that we have reached in the next 4 years, or maybe would have taken 6 to 8 years. I think from one perspective, what's happened in the world today has sort of accelerated the whole process because it's not left us with any options at all. So the only mode of learning has become online. But gradually, that's also moving towards the mode of blended. I don't think the world will go entirely online or offline. But we had to tell them the story on how hard we have worked in terms of engineering, in terms of the experiences that we're orchestrating. There is where I think the bit of marketing really stands out, wherein we'll have to tell the right stories.
Well, I guess everything really has changed. But that led me to wonder, well, does that mean that the way that Sundeep and his team have worked in the past was no longer going to work in the same way or work as effectively? And would a unified marketing platform help change that?
So in the old world, if you look at how marketing used to happen, we run campaign, we probably get leads out of them, and the leads are handed over to the salespeople. We look at lead nurturing at some points of time, and look at each of this as mostly individual entities. There was a lot of integration even then, but I think now it's become imperative because we have to embrace this as change, not just in terms of what's happening outside, but even in terms of the approach inside. In terms of what we actually were looking to achieve is that how do we build the touch points across the journey in terms of various goals that we want to achieve in terms of marketing. And by ensuring that a user probably moves through all of these milestones, if I may call them, instead of the touch points itself, how do we ensure that certain goals are being met? I think which is what we are attempting to do in terms of marketing as we speak. And there are various actions happening on the same person or a persona at all points of time. So what's leading us much closer to the sale or to the engagement or to increase the levels of awareness that they already carry? I think now in terms of the view is much more clear. We know what's working, what's not, which I think really helps.
So you've been using Zoho's Marketing Plus for a while now, and so I'm curious, in the context of everything you just talked about, how has it changed that?
I think the integration ease was amazing. I think it has put the control back into the team handling marketing rather than having to wait for the engineering team to accomplish certain things. So we didn't have to learn engineering. We just had to know English to probably get most of things up and running with a little bit of hand holding from the support, of course. But otherwise, I think so all we need to do is understand what we need very clearly in terms of a business. What are our objectives? And how can marketing various interventions or various experiences, what do we create that helps us to lead there? I think the way the products work with each other seamlessly to give you meaningful information. Because even insights, if you ask me, is just information. But what are those ones that I'm going to act upon become my actionable insights? Now that I have this actionable insights, how do I automate certain experiences based on this actionable insights, which becomes very critical. That's how I can have a system that really sustains itself with hardly external intervention happening from any human being.
Once you break the technical barriers of integration and collaboration down, you still then have to allow time for people to sort of get used to this new way of working.
I think what we're doing is we're using Zoho as an enterprise tool that gives you a view and visibility across the organization. So you're able to see who's working on what and how much. So basically, I think we have come down to a level wherein which are those actions and the actors, if I may call it, right? And what is the organizational impact that each of this brings? So I think what we're trying to elevate this into is there.
I love that Sundeep talked about how critical and important integration is, but I also know that technical integration isn't enough. You also need to integrate people, which is why I asked him about this one particular approach that Zoho takes that I find really so interesting. there's a bunch of different marketing suites out there that have different parts, but the parts, there's a few interesting elements. You mentioned automation, you mentioned analytics. One of the ones I think is underplayed, frankly, even by Zoho in this, and I'm curious your take on this, is really two: the asset management or the document management component, and the collaboration components, which interestingly are built on sort of the part of that's coming out of the Zoho Office suite. But what I think is interesting about it is, to the point that we talked about, is part of the cultural shift is allowing people to interact and to viscerally overcome those sort of siloed barriers that they've been used to. And so the fact that they sort of allow for all of that to flow through, I thought was very, very interesting. And I'm curious if you're seeing that support this cultural transition.
I think what used to exist as a job list could be a list of the tasks that you complete, has become more oriented towards a project. So I think one project probably requires about 6 things to fall into place, sometimes 85 things to fall into place, sometimes 400 things to fall into place. So I think what the team is really able to see is, one, I think they're able to look at what are the various fractions that will make sure that a certain experiences can be done or a certain initiative can be completed. Plus, what has been the impact of that? So you're able to measure the efforts as well as the outcomes on the same platform, which I think is really helping. I think we're able to look at this as one single flow, where everybody in the team have a firm view on the efforts required and the outcomes that we have achieved. And based on the outcomes that we have achieved, what would be the efforts that we need to reinvest again, which I think makes it very exciting for us as a team.
But of course, for me, what it all comes down to is the connection between unified marketing and delivering a winning unified experience. I do believe that the silos that most marketing organizations are functioning in actually make it harder to deliver these sort of unified experiences. So I'm curious how you see this relationship. You alluded to it here just a second ago, right? But how you see this relationship between unified marketing tooling approach leading to a unified marketing experience. I mean, how do you see those two connected?
So we're taking the experience of the, if you can call it UX, where what are the experience that we can create, the experience of the CX, where you have the consumer who's having certain experiences, based on which he became an LX, right? He became a learner and is still having experiences. So I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to integrate the UX, the CX, as well as the LX using one suite.
Well, I think that pretty much sums it up. Sundeep has made it very clear that there is a very direct connection between delivering a unified and winning digital experience and a unified marketing platform that can help you do that. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope to see you again soon. I'm Charles Araujo, publisher and principal analyst of the Digital Experience Report. See you next time.